Welcome back to J&J Dynasty, your headquarters for one quarterback standard PPR Dynasty rankings. I said that wrong, right? It should be one quarterback PPR standard weekly Dynasty rankings, right? So that's all we talk about here. Basically, we get into a little bit extra information here and there, but this is what we're concentrating on to help you guys with those type of leagues. You can take startup information from it for redraft leagues to best ball, all of that. But this video is going to kind of be concentrating on the NFC North, all right? And so with that being said, it's going to be the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, Chicago Bears, and the Detroit Lions. So let's get it started here, right? With the Green Bay Packers. So they have some very potentially upside guys, some sleepers, because this offense is in flux, right? So with that being said, let's get right into it. Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, what do you say? MVP, right? There you go. Do you want him? Yeah. Dynasty leagues, so you got to start thinking about his age a little bit and productivity. He signed a big contract, so he should be around for a while, right? Let's get into his receivers just a touch. Not quite what you guys think. Robert Tonyan. I think Robert Tonyan is a big buy. He's one of the few guys that Rodgers likes, knows, and throws to, right? So, to me, Tonyan is a big buy. Ooh, Arby's came back. Greek Euro, yummy. Second time, tasty. So I think Robert Tonyan is a big buy in this league. I think that he's going to miss most of preseason, but he'll be ready for the regular season and maybe play one game. But him and Rodgers have a connection. They did, especially down by the goal line. So worst case scenario, he's going to be a Dawson Knox type. But I do think he's going to get a lot more receptions and be much more PPR worthy. So let's bring that into then Green Bay's running backs. Jones, yeah, you want him. He could be just very similar to a guy like Alvin Kamara, a bunch of catches out of the backfield, maybe even in some slot position, a wide receiver running some of those routes. So with that being said, AJ Dillon's a thumbs up this year, as long as he can stay healthy. I mean, he's starting to get old, so maybe you want to start thinking about trading him. But I put him on a pretty good year this year. AJ Dillon, I mean, he's probably going to be the first and second down back for the most part. He's going to be the between the 20s guys. He might be short yardage. He might be goal line. Aaron Jones has had that nailed down for quite a while, but towards the end of the year, that kind of opened up more for Dillon again. So I think that both of those guys could very easily score very similar numbers, right around 200 points. Damn, I'm having a problem with my breathing here, so I apologize about that. Let's keep going here. Wide receivers, hate them all, pretty much, bar none. If you think Sammy Watkins is going to come in and do anything, no, not Sammy Watkins. If you think Randall Cobb, no. I mean, those guys may have a game or two where you want them on your roster, and they're gonna geek out and just get a couple touchdowns, and they're gonna win you if you have them in the week if you have them in the starting lineup, right? But are you gonna predict that? Probably not. It was pretty predictable last year when Cobb did it, just because Adams was out with his COVID. But other than that, yeah, no. Speaking of that, the one guy that I do like as a sleeper, a long shot that I am trying to keep on many of my teams at the very, very, very bottom of my roster is Amari Rogers. When Adams was out that week, Rodgers played the role of Adams. Is he going to earn Rodgers' trust like Adams did? It took Adams a couple years to earn that trust. So that could happen this week. My guess is sometime between week 6 and week 8-ish. That's when Amari Rogers is going to take off, and he's going to earn the number 1 wide receiver spot. The reason I say that is we know that Cobb isn't going to do it. We know that Watkins isn't going to do it. Christian Watson, is he going to do it? Probably not, being a rookie wide receiver with his limited capability and route tree, from what the scouts say and the experts say. I'm not. I'm just regurgitating what other people have said and trying to gather what other people say and form it into, standard knowledge, grade school knowledge, I guess. So with that being said, I mean, I don't look for Watson to have a super big year. He's going to be a best ball guy. Yes. He's probably going to have 2 or 3 games where he gets 24 or 30 points because he catches 2 or 3 touchdowns, because they are not going to be able to run with him and they're going to lose him, and Rodgers is going to find him. And he's probably going to catch the ball like Valdez-Scantling couldn't. So with that being said, so that leaves us with Allen Lazard. I just want to click on Allen Lazard here for a second. Wrong mouse. Allen Lazard's been touted for about 5 years here. Oh, yeah, 5 years in the league. This is his 5th year. 1, 35, 33, 35. Sounds like about 35, 40 catches for him this year. If you're thinking that he's going to be your number one guy, I don't think so. He's a 26-year-old receiver, going to be 27 in December, and he has never caught 500 yards in a season, and he's never caught anything more than 35 balls in a season. Guys just don't take jumps like that after 4 years, typically. I mean, these are special circumstances and things like that. I mean, they have him down on the Fantasy Pros as 62 catches, 700 yards, and 10 touchdowns, 82 targets. I think that's much more efficient than he's ever going to be. 82 targets and 62 receptions for 800 yards and 10 touchdowns. Let me do quick math on that. So 10 times 6 is 60, right? 60 plus 80 is 140 plus 60 is 200 points. If he's 180 or 200 points, that's probably what he's going to be. Is he a difference maker on your roster? No. Is he startable? Possibly as a wide receiver 3, but that's not what people are touting for Lazard. So where are all the receptions going to go? Are they all going to go to Tunyon? Are they all going to go to Jones? No, I think that most of the majority of them are going to go to Amari Rogers. And now he's not going to have Adams type numbers, but I could see him catching 60 to 80 balls, catching 800 to 1,000 yards, and becoming the number one wide receiver there. So I guess that's what I have for the Green Bay Packers, and those are my crazy takes on the Packers, because I know a lot of people are thinking exactly totally different than that, or vastly different from what I'm thinking about with the Green Bay Packers. The next team, the Minnesota Vikings. Gotta love the Vikings, right? Well, it starts with Kirk Cousins again. It starts with the new offensive philosophy. And it starts with Dalvin Cook. Oh, it starts with Justin Jefferson. Oh, throwing Dillon, throwing Irv Smith. A lot of guys to know, like, and love in this offense, right? Christian Kirk, I mean, I've said it many times. He's a bottom-end quarterback 1, top-end quarterback 2. If you have a better quarterback than him, you're doing good in your Dynasty League, because if that guy gets hurt or bye weeks, yeah, Cousins you can put in there, and Cousins plays every game, literally every game. Running backs. Being this is Dynasty, you kind of got to talk about this. Cook and his contract and how long he's going to be there, right? You maybe saw a chink in the armor with the number of running backs that the Vikings selected this year in the draft and the free agents, the priority free agents. So with that being said, I mean, I don't think any of them are going to be coming to the fourfold this year. So, I mean, you'll know who they are by the end of the year. So I don't think we need to go into them in this video. But, I mean, Wangwu is a great return guy. I don't know if he's going to ever be a bell cow or number one type starting running back, even though he has the physical traits. I mean, obviously, he was behind Breece Hall in Iowa State. That's why he didn't get much of a look. So, you can understand that. So that's why he got drafted as early as he did. Alexander Madison, great handcuff running back, not so much as a standalone running back, but with the new coaching regime and the new GM and stuff, are they going to go to more of a mixed backfield with as far as touches? So is Alexander Madison maybe going to get 30% of the workload and keep Cook a little bit fresher throughout the year? Maybe have Cook in there. They've talked about putting Cook in the slot so that way he can get more receptions. So, all those are possibilities. I mean, I like all those guys. I mean, those guys' values are pretty much stagnant and fixed. Everybody knows about those guys. Don't need to say a whole lot more. What we have left is the tight ends. I mean, Irv Smith is one of the guys who is a sneaky wide receiver. or a sneaky receiving prospect. He's got all the tools. He looked great in preseason before he blew out his knees. Didn't sound that bad, but it took him all year. So even when people want to project 6 or 9 months for an ACL, guys, it's not always that way. I mean, look at Tariq Cohen. 2 years, he's still not back, right? He's probably never going to be back from his ACL. So just because that happens, don't take for granted that the guys are going to come back. And I think that's what a lot of people mistakenly do, and they mistakenly think that they're going to come back 100% or better. Yeah, that's what happens most of the time, but there's still 20 or 30% of the time that it ruins guys' careers. So with that being said, we can move on back with Irv Smith. I think he's very sneaky. If you can get him low, end of the 3rd or 4th round draft pick, take him. Kirk Cousins is a quarterback who in the past has used his tight end. I mean, he used Conklin pretty well last year. Going back to his Washington days with Reed, I mean, he made Reed a household name by throwing to him. So Cousins is one of the few quarterbacks who do use their tight ends. Smith is a great receiving option, almost more so a wide receiver than he is a tight end. I mean, if he could ever stay healthy with Kirk Cousins, I mean, literally his upside is being like maybe Kelsey. He has that kind of size. He's got that kind of speed. He's got that kind of hands. And, I think that he has that kind of route running ability. So do I like Irv Smith? Yes. But I'm almost over him because it hasn't happened for him yet. If it doesn't happen this year, I'm going to write him off totally. I don't have any shares of him. I want some, but I still don't have any. Let's get into the Vikings wide receivers. Justin Jefferson. 2 thumbs up. Enough said, right? I mean, it's funny. A lot of people talk about what a bad job Spielman did. But look in the first round of every draft, 2 Cousins or Cook, Jefferson, don't they go in every first round? Spielman did a pretty bad job being the Minnesota GM. Deserved to be fired. And I think it was maybe more so the head coach's fault. He was trying to get him the type of guys he wanted. I think he did a pretty good job. Spielman will land on his feet. You don't have to worry about that. But let me see here. So let's get into Dillon. Dillon, the old wide receiver. I think Dillon is the type of guy that you want on your roster if you're contending. If you're not contending, he's going to fill you up with empty points that you're not going to care about. Because if you're not contending, you don't have a good enough roster where he can be a solid wide receiver 2 on your roster and actually win you games. So with that being said, Dillon's going to score his 220, 240 points. And if you're a bad team, all that's going to do for you is cost you draft spots, right? Why does this thing always go over there? I don't get this. At any rate, so with that being said, so then after that, we've got KJ Osborne. Everybody's hyping him to the moon with the amount of catches. This is the thing, 3rd wide receiver. I think Irv Smith is going to get more love than KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne is probably going to be right where he was last year, 150, maybe to 180 points. I think Irv Smith is going to take a big jump up. If Kirk Cousins is one of the guys that are going to be vying for 5,000 yards and a new offense, throwing for that money, I think it's going to more go to Irv Smith, and maybe Dalvin Cook is going to pick up a few extra catches. Then it's really going to go to KJ Osborne. So, I mean, he's at 150 to 180, maybe. So let's look for that. There's a couple other guys. Odabisi Johnson, I can't remember if he got hurt again or not. But then, he's really not rosterable. An outside flyer kind of guy is Smith Marset. So that's pretty much the size of it. I mean, I don't really have a lot to say about Smith Marset. Somebody's really got to get hurt for him to get a lot of play, to be able to get in the game and to be able to make a difference. So that's pretty much what you're going to have then for the Minnesota Vikings. We got one team left, and it's the very new, very exciting, reworked Detroit Lions team, right? Jared Goff. Let's get to Goff right away. Because why not? What else have you got to lose, right? Jared Goff, barely serviceable, barely startable, barely rosterable. He's most likely going to be a flex play in most leagues. He's going to be out there. Last year, he fired off right away first 2 weeks and was garbage the rest of the year. So look for basically the same thing. He's got some weapons now this year, so he could be a little bit better. Weapons make all quarterbacks look better, right? So I think everybody knows where Jared Goff is. Nobody really likes him unless you're from Detroit or family. If you're Jared Goff's family, you like him, right? As far as a quarterback, you're going to have him on your rosters. So, I mean, they've got an interesting backfield situation. Williams and Swift. There's so many Williams that are running backs. In one league, I was teasing a guy and I started calling him Junk Williams instead of Jamal because he doesn't score any fantasy points. And because he was touting him that he was going to be so good, and looking 113 points last year. 113 points. I don't really want you on my roster. I mean, he's not a young running back. He's not an up and coming running back. Like a lot of pundits talk about, Junk Williams gets the carries between the 20 and the 20. Doesn't get the short yardage, doesn't get the goal line, doesn't get the catches. He's used and abused between the 20 and the 20. Then it's Swift time, right? So with that being said, he gets his touches. He's useful. He's not useful unless you have him as a handcuff to Swift. That's my opinion. So Swift is a 2 thumbs up. He's an automatic first round draft, no matter what situation you're in. I mean, I guess sometimes maybe he'll drop into the second, but usually not. So I guess we really don't have to get into Swift and his virtue, right? Their tight end Hawkinson. I have Hawkinson on a big year. I've got Hawkinson with Schultz in a couple leagues, and it's going to be difficult for me to pick one. The nice part about it is those leagues, I think I'm not where I want to be with wide receivers. So worst case scenario, they could be a flex situation, and it seems weird to talk about tight ends being a flex, but Hawkinson is going to get enough targets and offensive share that I think that he could be a low-end flex type of play on many rosters if you can manage that with tight ends. That's always a nice thing about having 2 strong tight ends, is not only for the injury factor, the bye week factor, but in a pinch, you can pop them in as a flex, right? If you're down to, you got 3 wide receivers and only 2 running backs, and now your third wide receiver or your next best wide receiver because you're on buys is Zach Pascal, and you're looking at starting Jamal Williams, right? Well, I mean, I'd rather put Hawkinson or Schultz in, or somebody like that. So Hawkinson is roughly a top 5, right at top 5 type of tight end. So you definitely want your shares of him, and he's got something like a first round value on him. Let's get into their wide receiver core. Let's start off with the rookie, Williams, right? I like him, but I think that everybody's kind of overhyping him for what he's going to be this year, right? And with him as in Dynasty, I don't know that you're going to be able to get him at a discount because he's not going to play a ton this year, unless he looks terrible, when he comes back from his knee injury, which could be the case. But, I mean, that's going to be something like week 10. But, I mean, on the other side of the fence with that, it's going to be, okay, Jared Goff was throwing him the ball. They're getting a new quarterback next year. He's coming back from an injury. He was a high draft pick, so he's going to be pretty well insulated. So I don't know that you'd be able to swoop in and steal him next year, next offseason, just because of that. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to retain his value. So depending on what you're trying to do, maybe you want to get a share of him and maybe you don't, or more shares of him. So that's what we have there. One guy who I do really like for a breakout season is DJ Shark. I think that we'll just say it like this. This is DJ's year. If you're not going to be a number 1 wide receiver, if you're not going to put up big numbers this year, you probably never will, right? And then you're going to turn right into the Galladay, New York Giants wide receiver, where everybody's just going to want to dump you. You got the big playability. You flashed early in your career, and you got the size. You got everything that's going for you. If you can't stay healthy, if doesn't have a big year this year, I think that people are going to be totally out on him, and I'm going to be totally out on him. I've got about half my teams I have Shark on because he's so cheap, and I think that he's going to put up some big numbers. He's going to be in the 200s. He should be. He better be. He's going to be the number 1 target as far as wide receivers for the first for the first 10 games until Williams gets back, and probably after that even. So, I mean, virtually the whole year he should be the number one wide receiver. Amon Brownstein isn't going to hold his jock. And if Amon St. Brown, I'm sorry, I have a derogatory name for him because I think he's crappy. Worthless burger, guys like that. I try to make up fun names for guys. At any rate, I don't think St. Brown is a quality wide receiver. I didn't like him coming out of college. I didn't like he's small. He's a body catcher. He doesn't get open. People didn't care last year. They were running soft zone coverages against Detroit. They were so far behind in those games when he put up those numbers that it didn't care. So they weren't trying to stop him. So at any rate, I don't think that I've traded every ounce of Brown away that I could. Quintus Cephas, is he ever going to be anything? Probably not. He's had a couple of years here to try and do something, and nothing's materialized. So I don't really think that that's going to happen. I think it's been 2 years for him. Yeah, 20 and 15 catches. So I mean, obviously he only had 2 games with 15 catches and 200 yards. So that was looking good last year. I believe it was only 2 games, or was it 3? Oh, he was actually in there for 5 games, so it was longer. So yeah, that's not a good track record as far as that goes. With an upside play on him. I mean, he's got all the physical tools and that kind of stuff, but it's just probably not gonna. He's not gonna be a difference maker in Dynasty. We'll just say that. So Goff, the wide receivers. What the heck's going on here? Goff, the wide receivers, running backs. I think I've covered that. Tight end Hawkinson. I think I pretty much got everybody on Detroit. So I think that's pretty much the NFC North in a nutshell. I'm trying to keep these videos as short as possible, under a half hour if I can. So that's who I have. That's who I like. Go and get some of those guys. Stay away from some of those guys. Until next time, take care. From J&J Dynasty.